retrofit their homes? And what's a reasonable target?
Well, first of all, let me say on the topic that we've just spoken about, the demand-side management program, that's a fund, if I'm not mistaken, that was anticipated to have $5 to $10 million. I see the Liberal government sees that as potentially one source of funding that would provide meaningful funding. I don't mean $1,500 out of a $5,000 project, though rebate programs are an effective part of that package. I think we also must look at this particular fund as well to fund appropriate conversion programs for homeowners, and that could be one source to look to for such a measure.
Howard?
Thanks. It's part of our platform to increase the home insulation grants by an additional 1,000, and also to offer retrofit programs to public agencies like schools, school boards, so that public buildings will have the opportunity to do retrofits. But the emphasis on low-income people is entirely appropriate because of the hard fact of energy poverty. The analysis is that if you have to spend more than 10% of your income on providing energy for yourself and your family, then in fact you're in an energy poverty situation. That's why we're going to focus those extra 1,000 insulation grants on low-income people, low-income homes.
David?
Yeah, thank you, Jack. I think the first thing that I particularly agree with in the approach that's been taken, and it's an approach that's being taken across the country, is you've got to do these energy audits. Figure out where you are, where your gains are, what's the best return for your investment. And this is heavily subsidized for low-income Nova Scotians to assist them so they can have the comparable opportunity to make those improvements. I think that it's well known that there's programs in place both through the province and through the federal government for rebates for various energy efficiency improvements on the home. It's based on the net improvement. That's why you have to get the baseline. You've got to measure where you are, and it's always important to see where you're going, plus, of course, the $5,000 loan that's available to Nova Scotians to help make it happen.
I think David got a few extra seconds in there, but we'll
take it off next time.
Pass. Okay, and now the floor is open.
No, I didn't mind.
Oh, sorry,
Brendan.
Yeah, it's a free-for-all among these four.
No.
Thank you very much. I guess the thing that we all seem to agree on is that we have to start targeting low-income Nova Scotians. And right now, the current retrofit programs out there certainly don't do it. It's mainly middle-class people in middle-class suburbs or in middle-class areas in our rural communities that are benefiting from these. And certainly that's a good thing. But I think, as David mentioned, that there is people in energy poverty, or sorry, Howard mentioned that there is people in energy poverty, and those are the people that we should target to assist in reducing their energy costs. I don't propose taking the HST off energy, however, because that assists everyone. I think we have to target the low-income Nova Scotians and not everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Brendan. Now we can all speak.
Okay. One of the big advantages of having a retrofit program for public buildings or insulation grants available for homes is that it creates jobs. This is one of the virtues of many aspects of environmental work, is that it's often labor intensive, and that's going to be good for our economy in the long run, short run and long run.
Certainly I agree with my colleague here on the position regarding the removal of the tax on electricity. You indicated that we're targeting low income or poor for these retrofit programs, but how do you jive that position with the NDP's position on removing the 8% portion on electricity? I mean, you're not targeting the low income with that maneuver. You're in fact benefiting those who have larger homes. You're promoting greater consumption. Let's face it, one of the key determinants in promoting conservation is price. The higher the price, the greater the conservation. I don't understand the NDP's position on removing the tax on electricity.
Yeah, the price signal is an important part of what determines what people do, but I have to say that a universal program like that, in fact, will in fact find its way to the poorest and will give them the greatest benefit.
That's why Nova Scotia Power president, who is going to make the same profit agreed with you, because you reduce the price that we pay for energy, but Nova Scotia Powers still has the same profit margin. Then when coal goes up, which it inevitably will, we'll have a rate increase to probably, to make up for the 8% that you cut. And I think it's also important to point out that these home energy retrofits are not very accessible. I worked for Clean Annapolis River Project in Annapolis Royal, and they began a home energy retrofit and looked for certification of some employees so that they could do this, and immediately becoming certified so that they could do these home energy assessments. There was a list of well over 100 people just in their local area, and they had no way of keeping up to the demand. So the system isn't even working for the middle class people that it appears to be targeted towards right now.
Well, you can't both say that you really think that the cost of all forms of energy should be really high in order to discourage consumption.
That. I said the price of coal.
That's the implication, is that if the cost of energy is really high, it'll discourage consumption. And by the way, I'm also kind of worried about poor people, so too bad. You know what? I think you have to integrate both of these things. You have to recognize that the price signal is an important factor, but you can't ignore the problem of energy poverty. You have to take account of that. And I will also say that I think tax policy is a very complicated issue, and that all tax policy should be considered together, not just one, and the whole of the tax system probably does need some changes. And I think the other thing is that marketplace solutions, which is what raising the price is all about, have to involve systems that in fact people can use, which is why it's important to have grants and public transit and things that actually tie into that. Furthermore, let me tell you that the price signal is already built into energy because the price is going up. The price is going up, and the more you use, the more you will pay.
I just want to know where in an across-the-board tax cut on electricity are we targeting the poor? Everybody is getting the 8% reduction in tax. How is that targeting the poor and those who can least afford it?
I think it's also important to point out that if you do agree with the feed-in tariffs, as you said you did, Howard, that we're going to need tax revenue from that, because it's not a process that we immediately switch to. Our infrastructure right now is not ready for it. So it's an investment we're going to have to make. By reducing that 8% on energy is tax revenue that we're probably going to need in an industry that prices are only going to go up. Like you said, the price of coal is only going to go up from here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
David?
Brendan, on the feed-in tariffs, I think as an economist, I would tell you that ultimately that will make electricity more expensive. You're not taking advantage of the lowest cost options by guaranteeing a set price. Yes, you'll generate a lot of supply, but it will be at a cost.
Right, David. So you also understand that as an economist that the feed-in tariffs will create an industry here in Nova Scotia that we don't have yet, and that's a renewable energy industry. Germany is a great example of that. They now have 250,000 people that are employed in the renewable energy sector.
The Canadian company.
My turn?
Yeah, you can all speak up whenever you
Yeah, sure. I would point out that we've already know that Nova Scotia Power has long-term contracts, 25-year contracts for 60 megawatts at 7 cents a kilowatt hour. I mean, that is very attractive, and in fact, with the rising fossil fuel costs, that is actually more attractive than what the cost of generating from fossil fuels has been during part of that time. So it is happening there. We've got the pilot project being led by Minas Basin Pulp and Power, a real leader in the green economy, so that's happening to harness the Bay of Fundy tides. There are a lot of exciting things going on in Nova Scotia to bring on more renewable energy.
Okay, and before we go any farther, does everybody here know what feed-in tariffs are? Okay, I'm going to wing it on this, but I think it's a regulatory regime